I found an article as reported by Rachel Maddow from MSNBC. And this is an interesting article. The headline reads Trump assembles cabinet with the same disregard for ethics that marked his first term. If you had any hope normal people would come into his administration to do normal things, that wishful thinking hasn't survived 1 week after the election. Tyrone Bowman, live. Welcome to the program on tonight. I appreciate those of you that will be viewing. Thank you to all of you who have subscribed to Tyrone Bowman Live. I appreciate your subscription, and I hope some of you who will be watching tonight will subscribe as well. So let's get down to the essence of this article right here, written by Rachel Maddow from MSNBC. The last time Donald Trump was president, his Interior Secretary was embroiled in a corruption scandal and ended up referred to the Department of Justice for a potential criminal investigation. His Transportation Secretary was also embroiled in her own corruption scandal and also was referred to the Justice Department for a potential criminal investigation. Trump's Labor Secretary resigned in scandal following a ruling from a federal judge that he had broken the law when he signed a plea deal agreement with Jeffrey Epstein in 2008. Well, we all know about how things ended for Jeffrey Epstein, and the infamous black book that Jeffrey Epstein had mysteriously can't be found, mysteriously disappeared. Jeffrey Epstein, according to published reports, according to the official narrative, they say he committed suicide while in federal custody. Trump's Energy Secretary, head of the Environmental Protection Agency and Health and Human Services Secretary, also resigned in corruption and ethics scandals. It used to be if you had one cabinet official involved in a big ethics and or corruption scandal that forced them out of the job or led to them being referred for criminal investigations, that would be enough to brand your whole presidency a disregard and scandal-ridden mistake. Just consider Warren G. Harding. What's remembered about his presidency? Maybe that he died in office or that he had an affair. No, it's the Teapot Dome corruption scandal, which resulted in a cabinet official being criminally charged. A century later, that one scandal involving one cabinet official is basically all we remember about Harding's presidency. The first Trump term had so many cabinet officials forced out of office in this regard and reference to the Justice Department for criminal charges that it's actually hard to remember them all. However, despite an unprecedented number of cabinet officials being referred for criminal investigations, the supposedly independent DOJ or Department of Justice decided to bring charges against precisely none of them. Had they been a bunch of Democrats, they would have charged all of them. And you know it, and I know it. Ladies and gentlemen, let's not be naive to the game of politics. To the winner goes the victor. To the victor goes the spoils of war. And those who are in power, those who are wealthy, they have blatant disregard for the rules that they impose upon everyday normal people. The wealthy and the privileged believe that they are entitled to a different standard than anyone else. Look at the embroiled, embattled entertainment mogul, Sean Diddy Combs, who is facing life in prison without the possibility of parole. And what law did they use for him? The RICO Act. That was enacted in 1970. That act was brought together because of the organized crime syndicate, but it's also being used to target people who are deemed enemies of the state. Sean Diddy Combs' trial has already taken place, believe it or not. Once he goes to trial in May, he is not going to be found innocent. He's going to be found guilty. With all the evidence that they have and with all the plea deals and snitches that they have that are going to turn state's evidence and turn against him, you can believe they're going to use him and use him as an example to punish any other black person in the entertainment industry who think that they have arrived to a privileged status. Ordinary people like you and I, we are forced to live by laws that are made by those who are wealthy and privileged. And even instances, we are set up and sent to prison unjustly. And then we have to fight to maintain our innocence. We have to fight to be exonerated. We have to fight against unwarranted and unfounded charges. Remember the Scarlet Letter? Well, if you don't remember, let me tell you about the Scarlet Letter. There was a book written about the Scarlet Letter, and a movie was made about a woman who was deemed to be a seedy person in a seedy part of town. And to mark the fornication adulterous affair, they gave her a scarlet letter. Remember the story of the Pied Piper, a children's tale. People think it's a game. The Pied Piper was hired by the king to drive all the rats out of the city. Then the king reneged, and he did not pay the Pied Piper. What did the Pied Piper do? He got a different tune of music, and he led all the children out of the city, ultimately into the river, where they drowned. Be careful who you pledge your allegiance to, and don't be blinded. One of the more memorable ethical disasters along these lines from the first Trump term was a situation involving his Secretary of Veterans Affairs, Robert Wilkie. This might be the most memorable scandal because it happened right at the end of his administration, December 10, 2020, after Trump lost re-election to Joe Biden, but before the January 6th attack. Meadows' blog headline at the time by Steve Bannon read, quote, "Yet another Trump cabinet secretary caught up in scandal as Donald Trump's presidency comes to an ignominious end. It's apparently not too late for one more cabinet controversy," close quote. Wilkie was accused of having discredited a female veteran who said she had been sexually assaulted at a VA facility. Well, you know, in this age, now these things, when they occur, and they're horrible and horrendous and they're terrible, now they're going to be taken lightly because there's been blatant disregard for a woman's body, a woman's rights, and the heinous things that happen to females. Because a bunch of white men have decided to make rules that are unjust and laws that are unjust so that they can get their peccadillos and their freak-offs off without impunity. It's ridiculous. You trying to convince us, those who will propose to be the proponents against abortion, wouldn't dare make their mistress have an abortion or their girlfriend? You know darn right they would do it, and they're going to do it. During the Prohibition era, during Al Capone, remember that era in the 30s? It was illegal to sell alcohol, yet they had the speakeasies where alcohol was flourishing like wine coming out of a vat. And who were the recipients of that illegal wine? The privileged. Those who fought against it. Those who made laws to punish those who bought liquor during the Prohibition era. But yet they had all the wine and alcohol in their clubs and their speakeasies. Hypocrisy. And this is what's going on now. It's time to take a stand for what is right. It's time to take a stand and take your future into your own hands and your destiny into your hands. Don't wait for somebody to decide what your self-worth is. Women's suffrage has been a major problem here in the United States of America. Thank God for Susan B. Anthony and the movement that she led. Thank God that she fought, not just for the right for women to have the right to vote constitutionally, but she fought for women's independence and for women to be able to make decisions. without the approval of their husbands, who were misogynistic and tyrannical in many ways. So don't be fooled. His administration is going to be resemblance of what the last one was. All white people, maybe a token black person. Throw him in the HUD department and leave him over there. Don't even bring him to the cabinet meetings. He doesn't matter. They may go and find Ben Carson again and give him his old job back. So the VA Inspector General investigated those allegations against him, found evidence that he seemed to have broken the law, and referred him to the Justice Department for investigation. Wilkie has denied questioning the woman's credibility. The Justice Department didn't charge Wilkie, just like they didn't charge any of those guys, but more than 20 different veterans groups rose up in outrage against him. Desperate veterans groups with very different takes on the world banded together, everyone from the American Legion to Iraq and Afghanistan, Veterans of America to the Veterans of Foreign Affairs, all demanding that Wilkie resign or be fired. It was just a disaster, and it was a sign that even right up to the very bitter and ultimately violent end of Trump's first term, things weren't merely bad. It's not normal to have a half dozen members of the cabinet referred for investigations into potential crimes committed while they were serving in the cabinet. At least Richard Nixon, after pressure, resigned the office of the presidency. So he resigned, in disgrace. Gerald Ford became the president of the United States, and the first act that he did to pardon Richard Nixon. The Watergate scandal was one of the worst scandals that ever happened. And the black officer who discovered the breakage into the Democratic headquarters, he's just a by note in history. Fired from his job, blackballed from getting the job. Life became unbearable and miserable for him. Sometimes being a hero isn't quite that heroic after all. Sometimes being a hero will bring you more pain, more heartache than you could ever imagine. This is not like Hollywood. This is not some fictitious character being played out on a screen. This is real life we're dealing with on a daily basis. And individuals are facing serious circumstances and horrendous circumstances at the same time. People are playing games with people's lives. The rich and the powerful and the wealthy know what they're doing. They're pitting one group against another. They're pitting one race against another. It's the same old game, but different players. The stockholders, the shareholders, they don't care. They only care about profits. Is it profitable for us? Are we making money off of it? That's all they care about. And the same people that sell you that rotten tobacco, laced with rat poison and everything else, tearing your insides out, destroying your lungs, giving you emphysema, they wouldn't dare let their family members smoke that garbage. The same makers of cereal with all types of garbage and chemicals in it and sugar, feeding to your children every day, knowing it's rotting their teeth out. They wouldn't dare give it to their children. These are the people who want to be leading this nation and telling you and I what we can and cannot do. Understand and learn what the Constitution is and what your constitutional rights are and what my constitutional rights are. That's all they hollered about throughout the entire 4 years. His rights were violated. His rights were violated. His rights were violated. Well, what about the rights of everyday men and women? What about the right of the widow whose husband has died not to have her Social Security benefits taken from her? What about the right of individuals because they get married after somebody's passed away? You take this Social Security check and say, well, that new husband has to take care of you. What about that right? What about the right for people's pensions to be preserved without the company CEO and the COO stealing their money? And when they get ready to retire, there's no money in the pension fund. What about the right for children from all walks of life, from all colors, all religions, and all faiths, be able to go to clean schools and decent schools and learn on an even playing field? What about their rights? What about the rights of ordinary men and women who are working 1, 2, and 3 jobs and they still don't have enough money to pay the rent and utilities? I'm thinking about the servers. They used to call them waiters and waitresses. The servers. They're working hard in these restaurants night and night. And the meager tips that they get, it's not enough to sustain them because the basic salary is minimum wage and sometimes even below that. What about their rights? So Democrats, you better listen to this black man tonight. If you all are watching this program, you better listen to me. Get your act together during these next 4 years. Reorganize, restructure, come out fighting and stand up for everyday people. Forget about the elitists within the Democratic Party. Fight for everyday people. Fight for the rights of everyday people. Fight for people to have decent health care. Fight for the unborn who are coming into this world and don't have nobody to speak for them. Fight for the widows and the widowers. Fight for the children who are living homelessness. Fight for those, the homeless men and women within our society. Some of them were once doctors and lawyers and professors and teachers. Some of them were home care providers. Some of them did so many great things in life and they fell on hard times. Fight for the rights of those who cannot fight for themselves. Fight for the right for the poor to have the right to live decently. Wake up, Democrats. Stop being passive. Stop being weak. Stop being pathetic. Stop being inept. And choose a candidate that's going to walk among the people, be one of the people, live like the people, and react to the people, and stop talking down to the people. Get in the midst of them and listen to them. It wouldn't hurt to go on a listening tour for the next 4 years and find out what's on the minds of everyday people. Go on a listening tour. Just shut up. Don't talk. Just listen. Go across the country on a listening tour. And if you all choose to run Kamala Harris in the next 4 years, she better come out swinging. Forget about the fraternities, the sister fraternities, and all that kind of stuff. Forget about raising $1 billion. Just do what you have to do for everyday people, and people will reward you greatly for it if they know you care about them. Somebody give me a hell yeah down in the comment section, something, because you know I'm teaching good. Thank you. Goodbye, Andrew. It's all good. We got work to do. It's time to get it done. Let the Republicans gloat. Let them criticize. Let them hate. Let them bask in their moment of glory. This is their moment. This is their time. Let them carry the Trump flags and let them call Trump their Messiah, their king, whatever they want to call him. Let them have it all. Because 4 years go by quickly. Now to close out this article. And as the nation marked Veterans Day, a day to honor and celebrate our veterans, we learned Trump has decided to bring Wilkie back, tapping him to lead the transition efforts for the entire Defense Department at a time when the country is looking to the U.S. military for assurances that they won't deploy against American civilians. The way Trump has threatened the guy charged with staffing of the Defense Department leadership for the military is the same guy who left office last time while his possible criminal conduct was under investigation by federal prosecutors. Wilkie is not the only one who's been tapped for the second Trump administration in recent days. NBC News has learned Florida Senator Marco Rubio, remember that dude? Who once memorably cast aspirations on the size of Trump's, I won't even say it, his private parts, in a presidential debate is expected to be the president's elect's choice for Secretary of State. Are you serious? Oh, I'm gonna have a good time reporting over these next 4 years. Trump has also chosen Representative Mike Walz of Florida to be his national security advisor. Walz helped in the effort to try to overthrow the government and keep Trump in power after he lost re-election in 2020. Walz has distinguished himself by claiming that Trump was not responsible for January 6th and that Dulles Airport should be renamed the Donald J. Trump International Airport. So clearly, he's checked all the boxes he needs to be National Security Advisor. We learned from Tom Homan, the former acting director of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement during Trump's first term, will be his administration's border czar. Remember when Republicans used to maintain with a straight face that it was a huge scandal and evidence of communism to call anyone the czar of anything? Republicans are such hypocrites. Hey, yeah, I said it. That's what they are. Lying hypocrites. Well, Homan will now be Trump's border czar. He's one of the architects of the policy that had the U.S. government deliberately and systematically separating kids from their parents at the border, called Project 2025. He's also spent his interregnum period while Trump has been out of office barnstorming the country, bragging about how he's going to be the man mercilessly coming after immigrants if Trump gets back in power. Trump has put, and let me say something to all you immigrants that voted for Trump. You're going to be sorry. He already told you he's coming for you, but you don't believe it. You're going to be sorry that you voted for him, but because of your hatred for black people, that's why you did it. Oh yes, that's why you did it. And we ain't too fond of y'all either. Now how about that one? I love my people. I don't care what my people do. I'm going to love them anyway. Trump has put the other architect of family separation, Stephen Miller, in charge of all policy planning for the transition. A source tells NBC News that Miller will also serve as a deputy chief of staff for policy in the second Trump White House. So anyone telling you that a second Trump administration is going to be at all moderate or normal in terms of what they're going to do, that person is living on a nice planet that I like to visit sometimes, but it's not our planet. Any expectation that the most extreme things Trump talked about were just talk and that normal people would come into his administration to do normal things, well, that's wishful thinking. Hasn't survived 1 week after the election. Well, in the words of Betty Davis, in the movie entitled All About Eve, buckle up, because it's going to be a long night. Thank you for watching. Never surrender, never quit.